Basically, I'm doing a Q&A, shout you out and answer your question on a video probably next week or something. So, all right, see you guys. So, if you're surprised that it took me two and a half years, somewhere around there, I'll check and I'll throw an image up on screen to do this Q&A. I don't know why. I've been saying Survivors 2 is gonna come out for like 5 years. But here we are. It's been a long time since I've just sat in front of this camera. I am very, very, very glad that I have not done this video yet, because we're gonna do something very, very, very exciting today, being that I have not read these questions in 2.5 years. I have not read them in a long time. And now here we are to do the Q&A, and I'm going into all these questions completely blind. Well, not completely blind, but trust me, my memory is awful. So blind, and my eyesight, blind. What made you want to be a director? Honestly, I couldn't imagine really doing anything else. I like every facet of filmmaking to a degree, almost everyone, but with directing, I guess I've just always, from a very young age, gotten my friends together in my basement with the iPod Touch, downloaded some effects apps and stuff like that to make movies. And obviously, you know, they were what they were. And it's just kind of something I've always wanted to do. Even like making a YouTube channel and stuff is very representative of that, I feel like, or symbolic of that. Yeah, and then even when I was really young, I would go up to my parents and like tell them like, hey, I have a movie idea at like 6, 7, 8 years old. Just concepts that made no sense. Like I remember I wanted to do a movie when I was like 8 called Earthquake 13, because the system that measures how intense an earthquake is, I can't remember what it's called, but it only goes up to 12. So I thought it'd just be crazy to make a movie where it's the 13th. It's so big and so crazy, just 2012 level disaster, that it needed a brand new metric. It made sense to me. Oh, and another one where the continents like floated apart. They like became giant islands and just started moving around like Pangea. But then I discovered what a budget is, and I can't do that stuff. So far, what is your favorite shot scene in any of your films? Okay. So I'm discovering that this is going to be difficult going into these blind, because some of these I probably should have thought about a little bit. I'm gonna turn off the camera and I'm gonna find the answer to that question. Okay, so I've done some sifting and I've come to the conclusion that I don't know. There's a lot of stuff I really like in terms of specific shots. I'm having trouble thinking of like specific shots. Like I know I really like an anamnesis when the main character is looking at all the pictures, and then there's also the shot with him putting drinks in the glass. I love the scene from Past Follows when he's drinking too. I love my drinking scenes, I guess. Oh, another shot I really like, and it's really simple, but I really like it. I love just putting horror stuff into a movie where even if it's not a horror film, I still like throwing it in there. And where it ends when Rue gets called by Jack and he looks across the fire and Jack's just staring at him, and it went on for so long. That little segment in the film is like definitely has like 10 seconds each, just cut off the ends. So he did that a long time. Probably my favorite scene, at least out of the stuff that exists right now on the channel, because I could say stuff from Where It Ends and Survivors 2, but if I don't want to spoil anything. So yeah, in Survivors 1 though, when Derek and John are sitting there and it's a 5-minute long shot, uncut. And actually, I guess I will say, in Survivors 2, there's another like very long conversation shot that's just 5 minutes that I really, really, really like. Like this being our conversation.
Panning back and forth?
But yeah, no, that scene, the preparation that we did for it, everything was just absolutely beautiful. And I remember Charlie gave a lot to that scene. Really, really went in for it. And yeah, no, I think that scene is great. And even with Survivors 1, being what it is and not being of the highest quality ever, like that scene I think still stands out as like a slightly higher pedigree than the rest of the stuff. Like, camera work's not perfect, whatever, but it's good stuff. Do you think the rise of hold on. This is going to take a second. Do you think the rise of accessible media platforms like YouTube and TikTok benefit young filmmakers? Or do you think that they allow for amateur content to become more mainstream, removing the demand for traditional content? That was a mouthful. I think it definitely benefits more than it takes away. Just because first off, it allows for, I'm going to butcher this. Is it called RNG? I really honestly don't know. I don't know what it's called, but where you have to like go to multiple different platforms to piece together the whole story, and little pieces of the story are like a puzzle piece all over the internet. I think it opens the door for more stuff like that. Just be able to be creative, make skits, Yeah, I think if anything, it just adds to it, because like one of two things is going to happen. Either A, people just make their content on that, and it doesn't take away or make stuff on Netflix and YouTube and all that not exist. It's just in its own realm. Or that person that's on TikTok that like posts just stupid skits can someday take some of those ideas and turn them into bigger things if they become an influencer or anything like that. Why do you like zombies so much? You know what's crazy? I really don't, honestly. I like Call of Duty Zombies and I like The Walking Dead. And I think that is where Survivors came from, relatively, like a mix of my love for those. Oh, and I love like Left 4 Dead 2. Not Left 4 Dead 2. I mean, I love both, but Left 4 Dead also. Oh, and then my biggest inspiration of all, Scooby-Doo Zombie Island. That shit rules. But no, I don't know. I do like zombie stuff. I definitely don't dislike it, but I'm not like a massive George Romero fan. Like, I haven't watched all the movies. I know I've seen, this is not one, but World War Z. Just thought I'd throw that in there. I've seen Dawn of the Dead. I've seen Shaun of the Dead. There's definitely a lot of zombie stuff that I do definitely like. But I'm not like obsessed with it. I like it because it is, here's what I like about it. I don't love zombies so much, but I do think that it is untapped potential. And you may think, what are you talking about? There are 50 million zombie stuff, like pieces of zombie content out there. However, I think that there are definitely missed opportunities. There's so much you can do with the genre. You can have giant communities. You can have it more small scale survival. You can have it show the downfall of the apocalypse, or you can be 30 years in. There's so much you can do with it. So many twists that you can do on it. Oh, and I love Quarantine. Apparently Quarantine gets shat on sometimes. It's a remake of Wreck. I have not seen Wreck. I'll admit that. Okay, and apparently Wreck's way better, so I will watch it at some point. But Quarantine was my introduction to it, so I didn't even have that comparison in my mind. And that is the scariest zombie movie ever. Again, Wreck's probably scarier. But like, that's not even like a traditional zombie. It's like a human rabies. Oh, and the Crazies is cool too. Yeah, there's just a lot that you can do with the genre, I think, personally. Apart from films or TV shows, do you have any other inspirations? I mean, video games to a degree. I don't really play a lot of them anymore, but back when I did play a lot of them, those inspired me for sure. And then, I mean, if not films or movies, then like specific directors like Tarantino, Christopher Nolan, Wes Craven, James Wan, Mike Flanagan. There's so many I'm blanking on right now. So many. Those are definitely some of my main inspirations, though, are those people, for sure. what's my opinion on Rodeo Girl? Rodeo Girl is what I strive for. I know that I'm never going to be able to make a film like Rodeo Girl, but every day I try my damnedest. I'm trying to make Survivors 2, trying to make Written in Blood, but in reality, I know that what it is it's just a coping mechanism for the very fact of the matter that I'm not going to be able to reach the heights of Rodeo Girl. And if you haven't seen Rodeo Girl, go watch it, as well as The Christmas Bunny, The Horse Dancer, Trafficked, and all sorts of movies that star this actress called Sophie Bowen. She is sweet. Go watch her stuff. If you were to professionally make Survivors in the future with a massive budget, what actors would you cast as the main characters, and what would you do with said massive budget? Okay, so who would I cast? I'm not going to lie. I'm going to ignore that part of the question because I don't know. I have no idea. And on top of that, it's not like applicable anyways, because by the time I could make Survivors with a big budget, it would be like, I'd be old. And anyone that I can think of to play the kids would also be old. I do know, though, I watched The Devil All the Time or something like that. I think it's called The Devil All the Time. It's on Netflix with Tom Holland. And I always saw him as Spider-Boy. And, you know, the kid in the Tsunami movie. But after watching him in that, I'm like, damn, that is John. Like, it's definitely John with an accent, but it is how I picture John to be. I have been able to play John, and I honestly, now that I'm older, especially in Survivors 2, I have a very good grasp on how to play John. Obviously, when I'm older, I'm not going to be playing the character, and in Survivors 1, I didn't fully get the character, evidently. Because in Survivors 2, it's way more fleshed out and like an actual character. Or he is, rather. I can't even really get into that question. I really can't, because we'll be here forever. Survivors is being made in a different order than what most people would do. So, like, for example, I'm making Written in Blood right now. Or any film that I've ever made. I made it right now, and maybe I'll revisit it in the future as a feature length with a budget. Survivors, on the other hand, is made the other way, where it's an idea I had that I want to make in the far future. I want to make it with a budget. I want it to be like a nice 5-season thing, or like a trilogy of movies, something like that. But I want to make it right now. And I will say they will be quite different in many ways. The biggest thing I will say is that Survivors with a budget, and when I'm older, will be a world where kids inhabit it, and there is an actual reason. In the Survivors that we're making right now, there's not really a reason. It's left ambiguous, which I'm perfectly fine with. I like that for its own reasons. And there will be a long time in Survivors in the future where it is ambiguous. But all the zombies will be adults. That is kind of what I was talking about when I said that there's a lot of untapped potential with zombie stuff. And that's what I'm talking about. In Survivors, it'll be a world full of kids facing adult zombies. And finding an adult is very rare. And so the threat level of even just a single zombie is like up to here. It's like, I'm probably going off screen right now, but just imagine, it's all the way up here. That's definitely one of the biggest differences. I know that the locations will be bigger. Like, for example, they wouldn't be staying in a house. Maybe they'll take over like a high school or something, and they'll have the whole high school be their community. I'd want it to explore childhood and younger people at every stage. There would be very unique relations, like the fact that you have like a 17-year-old kid that's found like a helpless 5-year-old kid, for example, and they take on a parental role almost at such a young age, where they just kind of have they're already trying to survive the end of the world, and now on top of that, they're trying to be a parental figure when they are not at the mental capacity to do so. It would be very different. I explore some of the beginning of the fall, far into the future too. Some survival stuff in the middle. There'd be a lot of time jumps. It would also definitely be way more an ensemble. There'd be a lot more characters and situations going on. And I'd like to play with time where like these characters are doing this in one timeline, these characters do this, and eventually they kind of all culminate. And you don't exactly see how yet, but like they come together like a puzzle piece. I'm gonna stop because this is what I was talking about. It's just too much. I have way too much thought out, and all I can say is I hope that someday you guys will get the chance to watch it with me when I am able to make it. What will be the most challenging part of filming Survivors 2? Well, I have certainly discovered the answer to that question. I know I don't even have to guess. Honestly, so much of it is difficult. And this isn't, anything that's me saying how, oh, this film's been such a nightmare, like all this stuff. No, it's been great. And I think I'm just ready for it to come out though. Like I'm ready for it to be done and for all the hard work to have officially paid off. But it's a lot of traveling, a lot of expenses, trying to utilize places that change because they're not my place, and my own house, even though, as soon as like, oh, we're going to repaint this bathroom. It's like, oh, okay, well, if we filmed a scene in that bathroom, now we have to either reshoot it or just can't. I think the biggest problem I've run into is, continuity and not fully finishing a scene. And when you do watch Survivors 2, hopefully it's hidden decently well. But there will be a lot of scenes where it's like, hey, we filmed this part months ago, and then the next shot was actually filmed like months later. That has definitely been the most difficult part, I'd say. And just honestly just getting the whole thing done. And getting zombies. Yeah, it's been difficult. But it's coming out. What lessons did I learn from season 1? An absolute lot. A ton of lessons. For one, I have just a better understanding of what a situation like this would be like. It's not like I've experienced a zombie apocalypse, but at 15, 16, you don't fully understand the world. I feel like that's very obvious. I'm preaching to the choir. Everyone knows that. And so there are little differences. Like, for example, John is kind of this like, he's a hothead and like, you can definitely see that he struggles. But I think that in Survivors 2, there is a much more mature lens around just the situation. Like, what would these characters be thinking about? What are they going through? Like, what would this world do to them? Even just exploring the characters having PTSD, it's just that stuff that I just didn't fully get. Or what would be the weight of having to kill someone in self-defense?
You got a point. Have you ever killed anyone?
Yes, I have. I know the toll it takes. Have you ever had your finger on the trigger?
As for you, do I need to ask?
No. No, you don't. And in Survivors 1, I just didn't get it. I just want to make a cool zombie movie. That's exactly what we did. And there is depth to it, but at the same time, Survivors 2 is just a lot more fleshed out and realistic in terms of how the characters would actually deal with this and how they'd actually feel about it. I think, that's the biggest thing I learned, honestly, is just character. Just character nuances, differences, psychology of a character. That's definitely the biggest thing. I've also learned just overall how to capture a moment better. how to edit better for sure. Like, what should the camera be focused on? Like, should it be focused on this person listening, or should it be focused on the person talking? Just having a better concept of that. How to film action scenes better makeup. Yeah, no, there's a lot of lessons. It's definitely a night and day. There, when you watch Survivors 1 and 2 back to back, there will be moments that are very similar, especially like the documentary style film that Survivors 1 has. Survivors 2 definitely does have that, but it also has moments too where the camera's steady and you're just kind of seeing what's going on. And yeah, there's definitely more of that. Why are you obsessed with the apocalypse? Man. So different from the zombie question. Why am I obsessed with the apocalypse? I don't know. The downfall of society is just kind of an attractive movie concept to me. And a lot of the time, you only get to see it in stuff like natural disaster movies, which are really awful. At least a lot of the time they are. I just like characters being challenged and thrown into a situation where they once were civilized and now they are not. And how do they handle that? Are they going to keep their humanity, lose it? A lot of those themes and just the human story and how it gets thrown out of whack is great. And actually, there's a clip right now that I can show that I know we talked about this at one point in a Talks with Try S that really, I think, puts it in perspective.
It kind of breaks you down to past, all the layers that you build up as a person to like build up. Oh, I'm gonna be a funny person. I'm gonna be the really like witty person. I'm gonna be the sarcastic guy. All of those things that you build up to build you into a person, I think they go out the window when tragedy strikes or when there's really like hard, difficult to deal with stuff. And I think that at that moment you kind of get to see past who a person is and more into their soul, and you get to see what they are broken down without society kind of impacting them in that kind of I need to create and cultivate interesting character traits about myself. It goes right past that. It goes right to the who they are at their very center, and I think that only really dark events can have that. That's why my favorite I guess I don't want to call this genre, but like type of movie setting is the apocalyptic setting.
What are my thoughts on sexual predators in Hollywood? I don't remember that question at all. I don't really have any thoughts on it. Get them out. That's it. Just, they suck. It's certainly a shame that it is as present and prevalent in the industry as it seems to be. Even right now, I think, I don't know when I'm going to release this, but I know Jeanette McCurdy recently, who played like Sam on iCarly, released like a whole memoir talking about who a lot of people think is Dan Schneider. It is Dan Schneider, probably. And kind of goes into a lot of what she went through with him. And yeah, no, it sucks. It sucks, and hopefully they can be cleaned out of there and it can become an environment where those people don't succeed because they don't really deserve to. I don't really know how to answer that question. It's basically it. They suck. Have you ever doubted pursuing a career in film? If you mean doubted, thought I wasn't going to succeed, yeah, absolutely. And then if you're asking if I've ever questioned going into it, if maybe I thought about doing something else, yes. The only other things I've considered doing that aren't film is being a psychologist, like a therapist or something, a counselor. I feel like that'd be cool. Or a lawyer. I remember that being a thing. I don't know what I was thinking, and I never really went anywhere with that. But I do love helping people, and I find psychology very interesting, but it's also very difficult. And I wanted to go to film school instead. So that's why we're here. But yeah, no, I guess I've thought about doing different things. There's definitely stuff that would interest me, like anything involving nature, really. But again, filming is just it's just the thing. Out of everything else that I enjoy, it's like the homestead of it all, the heart. So all that other stuff just kind of surrounds it. Thoughts on 11/11 movie? And then in quotations, maybe. I'm gonna look that up. Is that a movie? There's Hell's Gate from 2004. There's just no chance that's what was being asked. I don't know what that means. I'm assuming it's asking like what I would think on like a movie made out of like the 11/11 time. I was involved in a whole film that was surrounded itself around the number 94212. 94212.
Bingo. 9/12/42. 9/42/12.
So I think that's right up my alley. I think I love that idea. A scary movie idea that hasn't been done yet. Well, here's my only issue with answering that question. I don't mean to sound... I don't know if I want to say my ideas on camera and just present them. Because, like, what if... I don't know. I don't want my ideas stolen. I guess I'll say this, though. I just feel like a lot of the time, like, horror films and scary movies, like, delve into the same cliches when they just don't have to. They can be completely different. They can be very different. There's so many little tiny things that you could do differently. Okay, actually, here's one idea I'll say, because it's barely fleshed out. I do have a horror film that I want to make one day that I'm super, super into. Like, I love the idea. But I'm not going to say a single word because I have to be the person that makes it. I want to make it really bad. But this one I will say. I like the idea of a camp, like a summer camp, and all the counselors and all the staff and everything are like in on a big, like, I don't know, sacrificial plan or something, like some ghost stuff. I think I literally heard of a story of some like possession that happened at a camp, and like some really weird thing happened at like a Christian summer camp. And I think that is what inspired this idea, if I remember correctly, if I'm connecting the dots properly. I do definitely like that idea. That's one idea that I don't think has been done yet, that I do quite like. And on that topic, just combining slasher genre and supernatural, like demonic stuff. You could definitely do that. And for some reason, we live in a world where every horror film does one or the other in a lot of ways. But in this instance, you can have the staff members walking around with knives and stuff, chasing after people. But you can also have a bunch of spooky stuff happening, like doors creaking open by themselves, shit like that. And yeah. Just do things different. Anything, any new idea. Another thing that should be done in horror is like more period piece stuff. Like, why not have a Western horror film where it's a Western movie, but at the same time, doors opening by themselves. There's spooky noises in the woods. I feel like it'd be cool. It's definitely been done a little bit, but not as much as I would like to see. Opinion on horror films in the last year. Well, considering this list was made 2 years ago, I don't remember exactly what's come out in the last 2 years, but this is what I will say. Horror films definitely have had a renaissance recently. There was a period where they were quite bad, and now they are unique and good again, and people actually put effort in. I love Hereditary. That's a recent horror film. Nope was okay. A lot of people like that movie, and I feel like I should. Like, I feel like it's totally right up my alley of what I would like, but I just don't really like it. I don't know. It just didn't feel like there was much to it. And I get it. I understand all the themes and all that. This isn't a Nope review. I don't know what I'm doing. It's kind of like action movies now, where like there was that period of time where every single action movie was so lame and the fights were horrible to look at, just disgusting. But now, because like John Wick, Nobody, oh God, what's that movie called? I can't think of it. Doesn't matter, whatever. That type of fighting choreography has become the standard, where now even lame movies that just aren't that good, like I think it was called Atomic Blonde, isn't that good, but it's got an incredible fight. Or there was that movie Extraction on Netflix with with Chris Hemsworth or Liam? No, Chris Hemsworth, and and that had incredible fights, but very basic movie. And that's what I'd like to see. And I think horror has kind of gone down a similar route where it's like, oh, this is the new standard now. We actually need to try again. Okay, cool. Oh, going back a second, I also really like, in terms of like horror films that haven't been done yet, I do like the idea of combining genres. Like, why can't you have a horror film that has like an action scene of like John Wick caliber in it? Why not? Like, why not? Best movie I saw in 2019. Oh my God. This list is old. This list is really old. I did not realize how old this list was. Let's look at movies of 2019. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was pretty good. Midsummer sucked. I hate Midsummer. Not good. Okay, I'm gonna settle and say Knives Out. It's a very boring answer, but I just looked at a list of 2019 movies for like a total of 45 seconds. So it wasn't a very in-depth look. But yeah, I guess I'd say Knives Out, if anything. Midsummer wasn't very great, in my opinion. Definitely not a fan of that movie. Us is kind of lame too. I've heard Parasite's incredible. I've not seen it. I haven't seen, or have I? I actually don't know. I'm assuming I haven't, because if I'm even thinking about it, then I probably haven't. But Parasite is apparently really good, and that probably would have been my answer. I think it probably would have been my answer. But I've never seen it, unfortunately. And the next question was most anticipated movie of 2020. Well, would you look at that? Most anticipated. What was I just hyped for? Yeah, I don't know how to answer that question because, 2020 was just a long time ago. And not to mention, too, I think any search results would be kind of weird on my phone because a lot of movies from 2020 got pushed back. So, I don't know. I don't know. What is my favorite zombies map? Dude, Kino or Derice. And I understand that those are just so basic, but I'm sorry, unapologetically, that's when I love zombies the most. I love Ascension, but, the monkeys suck. The maps just got way too complicated about Black Ops 3. They're incredible. Don't get me wrong. They're great, what they did. But it's just not my cup of tea. It's not why I fell in love with the game. So I think I have to say Kino or Derice. Basic answers. Come at me. I don't care. It's fine. OG school. That's stupid. I meant to say OG and old school and what came out as OG school. And that's just not correct. What do you think is the hardest zombies map? Shangri-La used to be really hard when I was younger. I'm no good at Shadows of Evil. That map is really, really, really cool, but I'm just not very good at it. Or Zetsubo no Shima. Yeah. Black Ops 3 maps, dude, it's just not for me. Honestly, any one of those could be considered difficult, like, except for Revelations. I think that's the name of the last map. But Garad Krovi, Shadows, and Zetsubo were very difficult. Oh, Der Reisendrachen is cool. That is a cool-ass map. I love that map. I love the map a lot. I see a speck on my lens. And I've been filming Survivors 2, and that pisses me off. That probably means it was there in footage. And now we're going to have to reshoot it again. And that's going to come out in 2045. It's my favorite movie. My favorite movie of all time is Kick-Ass. And if you haven't seen it, I was about to say it kicks ass, but that's really lame. But now here you are knowing that information anyways. Yeah, Kick-Ass is sweet though. If you haven't seen it, it's a superhero movie, except it's not. It is literally a high school kid who is just a big nerd, like Superman, Spider-Man, all those people exist in this world as comic books and as characters. And this kid one day in New York is like, how come no one's ever tried to be a superhero? And then he tries to be a superhero.
How come nobody's ever tried to be a superhero?
Well, I don't know. Probably because it's fucking impossible, dipshit.
What, putting on a mask and helping people? How's that impossible?
It's awesome. It totally perfectly blends like over the top, like inappropriate, edgy, offensive comedy and dark humor with like you taking it very seriously and it being grounded. Great movie. It's been my favorite since I was like 11 when I saw it, and I've seen it like 15 times. So go watch it. What's my favorite movie scene? Oh no, that's not a question. I made that up. Who is your favorite actor? Okay, I know he's a nut job, but I love Tom Cruise. I don't even know if he is a nut job anymore. Maybe he's not. I don't know. I honestly don't really want to know. I don't care. He is spectacular. And he cares so much for the theater experience and filmmaking in general. Like, Tom Cruise is great. I also love Jake Gyllenhaal. Jake Gyllenhaal's awesome. Great actor. Can disappear into the performance. John Bernthal, Punisher, Shane from Walking Dead. Awesome too. And then I gotta include this. I gotta be honest and say this. Before everything came out about the guy, man, I loved Kevin Spacey. I just loved him in Rules. He was great. Baby Driver is like the bad guy. So good. And he's in other stuff too, obviously. He's in the best Call of Duty game ever made, Advanced Warfare. It's incredible. You should play it. You should waste your time playing it. It's definitely tragic though, because he is who he is, unfortunately. But before all that was something I knew about him, and when he was just an actor, loved him as an actor. But yeah, too bad. It's kind of ironic that I answered a question earlier about what I thought of predators in Hollywood. I guess turns out I like them in movies. I don't know. At least this guy, before he was a predator. Well, he was a predator, but I didn't know it. Is Brad Pitt handsome? He's gorgeous. Is he Yes. Yes. And he just doesn't age. Will any previous characters that were left ambiguous from Survivors be returning? Can't tell you. I cannot say. Actually, yes I can. I'll just say this. Yes. But I'm not going to say who. You're just going to have to wait. You're going to have to survive the wait. Do you write scripts for your films, or is it a lot of improv? I'm definitely more of a script guy these days. I used to be way more improv-y. And I still do like improv. Now what I do is I write stuff very particularly to where I'm like, even like if someone changes like a line a little bit, I'm like, oh, shoot. I'm like, I liked that. I really did. I liked it a lot, but it's got to be this exact way because of this, and then that's how that affects that, and it ties back into this theme. All that crap. So I'm definitely a bit more particular now with scripts, but I do like me some improv for sure, and there's definitely a time and place for it. Oh, and I will say, any of the crazy videos on the channel, the Chad Comes Home from College, the Haunting of AK, Haunting Steve Remminga, any of that stuff, none of that is scripted. None of that is even an idea. We literally pick up the camera, we have a basic concept, and we just film for 4 hours, and we just see what happens. I'm not kidding. That's what those films are. So those are not scripted at all, and that's probably why they get completely insane. Wow.
Trick or treat!
Oh, you found me. I've been in there for months.
Do you understand me?
That was the last question. This was fun. I'm not gonna lie. Some of those were a little stressful because not having read this in so long, some of those questions I had to ponder on for a minute, and I didn't know what to say for some of them. But no, that was a blast. Yeah, this is nice. Feels good to sit in front of the camera again and just talk. And since I'm here, I guess I will say that Survivors 2 is looking like it'll be coming out next summer, like June. I know that I've given a lot of empty promises on this channel. But with that said, at the very least, it will be wrapped filming by then and will be far into editing. The only thing that could maybe get in the way of it not hitting its release schedule in like June or July is if music is taking a while or just very specific editing stuff like special effects, all that. That might, get in the way because that just happens. And obviously it's been this long, so we want to make it as perfect as we possibly can. The editing will take a while. The second thing I'll say about it is Survivors 2 may end up coming out in 2 parts. It depends how long the movie ends up being. If the movie is over 3 hours, which it very well might be, then I'm probably going to release it in 2 parts. And that means that part 1 could come out earlier, significantly earlier. And then part 2 of Survivors 2, that's funny, will be out later. And that's the more special effects heavy part anyways. The films are coming along good, and everything's going good. I don't have much else to say aside from that. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. And I am glad that, I hope that this video was worth the 2.5 year wait. So, all right. Good day to you. Oh, I actually will say one more thing. No, I won't. Nope. Just kidding.